Commander Park Jin-ho felt his stomach drop as he watched the massive alien ships blotting out the afternoon sun over Seoul. Each vessel stretched nearly 10 kilometers long, their dark hulls bristling with weapon arrays that glowed an ominous purple. The city below had gone eerily quiet, with millions of people staring up at the sky in disbelief. "Sir, they're hailing us again," Lieutenant Kim So-ra called out from her position at the communications console. Her voice carried a slight tremor despite her military training. The command bunker, buried 300 meters beneath the city, hummed with the sound of cooling systems working overtime. Park straightened his uniform and nodded. "Put them through." The alien ambassador's voice filled the room like grinding metal. "Primitive humans of the third planet, your 72-hour deadline approaches its end. We have observed your pathetic defensive preparations. Your chemical rockets and nuclear warheads are toys compared to our plasma cannons and quantum disruptors." Through the main screen, Park could see the alien flagship positioning itself directly above the city. Its massive form cast shadows across entire districts, and he could make out smaller fighter craft swarming around it like angry wasps. "We offer you one final opportunity," the mechanical voice continued. "Surrender unconditionally. Disarm your military forces. Submit to hegemony rule, and your species will be permitted to exist as laborers in our expanding empire. Refuse, and we will demonstrate why 300 civilizations have already knelt before us." The transmission cut off, leaving the command center in tense silence. Park looked around at his staff. Colonel Ryu Haijin was studying tactical displays, showing hegemony forces positioned over every major city on Earth. Captain Song Min-jun monitored reports from orbital defense platforms that seemed laughably inadequate against the alien fleet. "Commander," whispered Lieutenant Kim So-ra, "Beijing, Moscow, and Washington are all reporting the same demands. The aliens have positioned their largest ships over our capitals." Dr. Lee Min-ho, who had been hunched over his tablet in the corner, suddenly looked up with bright eyes. "Sir, I think you need to see this." Park walked over to where the physicist sat, surrounded by holographic equations and technical schematics. "What is it, Doctor?" "Project Thunderbolt, sir. We've been working on it for 18 months in complete secrecy. The aliens keep calling. Our technology primitive, but they're thinking in terms of energy weapons and exotic matter." Lee's fingers danced across his tablet, bringing up a three-dimensional model. "They've never encountered a civilization that mastered kinetic warfare to our level." The hologram showed what looked like a simple metal rod, but Park knew better. "The tungsten penetrators." "Exactly. But it's more than that now. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin's team on Lunar Base perfected the gravity manipulation cores last week. We can accelerate these projectiles to 20% light speed." Lee's voice grew excited. "Sir, each rod carries the kinetic energy of a small nuclear weapon, but leaves no radiation signature." Park studied the display, showing Earth surrounded by what appeared to be communication satellites. "And the hegemony thinks these are surveillance equipment? Their scans show basic metal and circuitry. They can't detect the tungsten cores because we've wrapped them in sensor-dampening materials. To their instruments, we look like we're desperately trying to gather intelligence on their fleets." Captain Song Min-jun approached with a worried expression. "Commander, we're getting reports from around the globe. The aliens are conducting what they call demonstration strikes on uninhabited areas. They vaporized an entire mountain in the Sahara with a single beam. The energy readings are off the charts." Park watched the tactical display update with new information. Red markers showed where alien ships had tested their weapons, leaving massive craters and fields of molten glass. The message was clear: submit or face complete annihilation. "Sir," Lieutenant Kim So-ra called out, "the hegemony commander is requesting our final answer. They want a response within the hour." Dr. Lee Min-ho stood up, his tablet clutched in his hands. "Commander, if we're going to do this, we need to commit fully. Once we activate Thunderbolt, there's no going back. They'll either retreat or try to glass the entire planet." Park looked at the faces around him. These men and women represented Earth's best military minds and scientific talent. Outside, 7 billion people waited to learn their fate. The easy choice would be surrender, accepting slavery in exchange for survival. But Park thought about humanity's history. Every time someone demanded they kneel, humans had found a way to stand taller. Dr. Lee, how many satellites do we have in position? 4,732, sir, all armed and ready. Park turned to Lieutenant Kim So-ra. Open a channel to the Hegemony fleet. The mechanical voice returned immediately. Have you reached your decision, humans? Park's voice was steady and calm. We need more time to consult with our global leadership. Surely beings as advanced as yourselves can grant us a few additional hours to ensure a proper response. Very well. You have until sunrise over your primary landmass. Do not test our patience further. As the transmission ended, Park turned to his team. Begin final preparations for Thunderbolt and send word to all our colony ships that launched 6 months ago. If this goes badly, they're humanity's future. Dr. Lee Min-ho smiled grimly. Sir, the Hegemony is about to learn something important about humans. What's that, Doctor? We don't kneel, we adapt. Captain Choi Da-eun gripped the armrest of her command chair as another wave of small deployment pods launched from the science vessel Harmony. Through the bridge's massive viewport, she could see dozens of other human ships doing the same thing, releasing what looked like basic communication satellites into Earth's orbital space. Captain, the alien fleet is scanning our deployments. Again, reported Ensign Park Woo-jin from the sensor station. They're using some kind of deep penetration scanner, but our dampening fields are holding. Choi nodded, trying to keep her expression calm. Each of those innocent-looking satellites contained enough destructive power to punch through a battleship's armor, but to alien sensors, they appeared to be nothing more than desperate attempts to gather intelligence. High above them, the Hegemony, flagship Eternal Dominion, hung in space like a metallic city. Its commander, War Marshal Kethvar, studied the tactical displays with growing amusement. The primitive humans were scrambling like insects, launching their crude observation devices in a pathetic attempt to understand Hegemony technology. Report, Kethvar commanded his tactical officer. The humans continue deploying basic surveillance equipment, War Marshal. Our scans detect simple metal constructs with primitive electronic components. No energy weapons, no exotic matter signatures. They appear to be trying to map our fleet positions. Kethavar's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. Let them watch. Soon they will witness the true power of the Hegemony as we reduce their cities to ash. What the aliens couldn't see were the tungsten rods nestled in the heart of each satellite, wrapped in materials that Dr. Yoon Soo-jin had specifically designed to fool their sensors. 300 kilometers below on Lunar Base, Dr. Yoon worked frantically in her laboratory, making final adjustments to the gravity manipulation cores that would turn simple metal rods into relativistic weapons. Field strength is holding steady. At 97%, she reported to her assistant engineer Han Dong-woo. The compression chambers are functioning perfectly. Each core can accelerate its payload to 22% light speed before the containment field collapses. Han wiped sweat from his forehead as he monitored the targeting systems. The lunar facility looked like any other research station from the outside, but hidden beneath its surface lay the most sophisticated weapons guidance network ever created by human hands. Quantum computers calculated trajectory paths while accounting for gravitational effects from Earth, Luna, and even the alien ships themselves. Dr. Yoon, we're getting confirmation signals from all 4,000 satellites, Han reported. Every Thunderbolt unit is online and responding to remote commands. Back on Earth, Colonel Nam Ji-woo paced the length of the Seoul command bunker, coordinating the most elaborate deception in human history. On the main display, he could see the positions of every Hegemony vessel, now completely surrounded by what they believed to be harmless observation equipment. Maintain the charade, he ordered his communications team. Keep transmitting surrender negotiations. Make them think we're buying time because we're terrified. Lieutenant Commander Shin Ye-jin handled the delicate task of communicating with the aliens. Her voice carried just the right amount of fear and desperation as she spoke to the Hegemony fleet. Honored representatives of the Hegemony, our global leaders are still debating the terms of surrender. We request additional time to ensure all nations comply with your demands. The alien response came back immediately, dripping with condescension. Your fear is understandable, primitive creature. We grant you these additional hours only because we find your species' terror amusing. Do not test our patience. As the transmission ended, Nam Ji-woo allowed himself a tight smile. The aliens' arrogance was working in humanity's favor. They were so convinced of their superiority that they couldn't imagine Earth possessing any real weapons. On the bridge of the Harmony, Captain Choi watched as the final wave of satellites reached their designated positions. Each one looked identical to alien sensors, but she knew their true purposes varied. Some carried the tungsten penetrators that would serve as humanity's primary weapons. Others held electromagnetic pulse generators designed to disable alien electronics. A few contained gravity mines that would create spatial distortions to trap enemy vessels. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Lunar Base," announced Communications Officer Lee Tae-yang. Engineer Han Dong-woo's voice came through clearly despite the distance. "All Thunderbolt stations report ready for activation. Targeting solutions are locked on every major hegemony vessel. We're just waiting for the signal from Earth Command." Choi felt her heart racing. Humanity had spent months preparing for this moment, but seeing it actually happen felt surreal. Around Earth's orbit, an invisible net of destruction waited to spring closed on an enemy that had no idea they were already trapped. The hegemony fleet continued its slow positioning, moving their massive dreadnoughts into formation for orbital bombardment. War Marshal HFY was particularly pleased with the placement of his forces. Each major human city would face concentrated fire from multiple vessels, ensuring complete destruction within minutes. "War Marshal, the humans have ceased deploying their observation devices," reported his tactical officer. "All their vessels are withdrawing to what they consider safe distances." "Excellent. Fear finally overcomes their curiosity. Begin final preparations for bombardment. I want every human military installation identified and targeted." What HFY didn't realize was that the human ships were withdrawing to avoid being caught in the crossfire of their own weapons. The satellites they'd dismissed as primitive sensors were now in perfect position, creating overlapping fields of fire that would turn Earth's orbital space into a killing ground. Colonel Nam Ji-woo received the final confirmation he'd been waiting for. "Sir, all stations report ready. Operation Thunderbolt is armed and awaiting your command." He looked at the tactical display one last time. The alien fleet hung in space like ripe fruit, completely unaware that humanity had just finished weaving the noose that would destroy them. The greatest armada in galactic history was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous weapons were the ones you never saw coming. "Maintain the deception until they fire first," Nam ordered. "Let them think they hold all the cards right up until the moment we flip the table." The first rays of sunlight crept over the Korean peninsula as War Marshal HFY decided humanity's time had run out. From the bridge of his flagship Eternal Dominion, he watched the primitive planet below, its blue oceans and white clouds, soon to be replaced by fire and ash. "All vessels, begin orbital bombardment," he commanded. "Target their military installations. First, then their population centers. Show them the price of defying the hegemony." Across the alien fleet, massive plasma cannons swiveled toward Earth. The first barrage lit up the dawn sky like artificial lightning as purple energy beams lanced downward, each one carrying enough power to level a city block. The atmosphere itself seemed to scream as the alien weapons tore through it. In the Seoul command bunker, Admiral Song Hye-jin watched the tactical display as enemy fire rained down on human positions. An alien beam struck the mountain fortress of Cheyenne, turning solid rock into molten slag. Another plasma bolt hit a naval base in Japan, vaporizing ships and sending a mushroom cloud into the sky. "Ma'am, we're reading massive energy discharges across the globe," reported Major Kim Jae-hyun from his monitoring station. "The aliens are targeting our military infrastructure first." Song Hye-jin felt the bunker shake as an enemy beam struck somewhere above Seoul. Emergency lighting flickered, and she could hear the distant rumble of collapsing buildings. This was it, humanity's moment of truth. She activated the command authorization system, placing her palm on the scanner while speaking the activation code. "Authorization Song Alpha 77. All stations, execute Thunderbolt." 4,000 kilometers above Earth, the seemingly harmless satellites that had been orbiting for hours suddenly came alive. Each one opened like a metallic flower, revealing the tungsten rod nestled in its core. Dr. Yoon Soo-jin's gravity manipulation technology activated simultaneously across thousands of weapons, creating invisible hands that grasped each projectile. On Lunar Base, engineer Han Dong-woo watched his instrument spike as the gravity cores drew massive amounts of power from the hidden fusion reactors. "Field generators at maximum output," he announced. "Acceleration beginning now." The tungsten rods, each one the size of a telephone pole but weighing several tons, began to move. Slowly at first, then faster, then incredibly fast as the gravity fields compressed space-time around them. Within seconds, they were traveling at a significant fraction of light speed, their kinetic energy building to unimaginable levels. War Marshal Kethvar was preparing to order the second wave of bombardment when his tactical officer shouted in alarm, "War Marshal, we're detecting massive kinetic signatures. Something is approaching our fleet at relativistic speeds." "Impossible," Kethvar snarled. "The humans have no weapons capable of—" The first tungsten rod struck the hegemony battleship, Iron Conquest amidships. The relativistic impact released more energy than a nuclear warhead, but focused into a space smaller than a coin. The massive alien vessel didn't just explode, it simply ceased to exist. Its atoms scattered across space in a brilliant flash that outshone the sun. "What was that?" Kethvar demanded. But his question was answered by a dozen more flashes as tungsten projectiles found their targets. Each impact was like a small star being born and dying in the same instant. In the Seoul bunker, Sergeant Oh Min-seo could barely contain her excitement as she monitored the results. "Direct hit on the flagship. The Eternal Dominion is taking massive damage. Enemy vessel Shadow of Worlds has been completely destroyed." The main display showed the alien fleet in chaos. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before were now burning wrecks or expanding clouds of debris. The mighty hegemony armada was being torn apart by weapons they couldn't even see coming. War Marshal Kethvar staggered as his flagship shuddered under multiple impacts. Tungsten rods punched through the ship's advanced armor like it was paper, sending shockwaves through the massive vessel. Emergency klaxons wailed as sections of the ship lost atmosphere and power. "How are they doing?" "This," he roared at his surviving tactical officer. "Our sensors detect no energy weapons, no exotic matter signatures. What manner of witchcraft is this?" "War Marshal, analysis of the impacts suggests simple kinetic projectiles accelerated to tremendous velocities. But the energy requirements should be impossible for their primitive technology." Another wave of tungsten rods struck the fleet. The heavy cruiser Void Stalker broke in half as 3 projectiles hit it simultaneously. The carrier Wings of Dominion spun wildly as multiple impacts destroyed its propulsion systems. Major Kang Sun-woo watched the destruction from Orbital Defense Platform 7, one of the few human installations that had survived the initial alien bombardment. Through the reinforced viewport, he could see the alien fleet dying in flashes of brilliant light. "Control, this is Platform 7, he reported. "Enemy fleet is in full retreat. I count at least 40 major vessels destroyed or disabled. The survivors are breaking formation and attempting to escape Earth's gravity well." The alien survivors tried desperately to understand what was happening. Their most advanced warships were being destroyed by what appeared to be simple metal rods. It violated everything they knew about space warfare and technology. "All ships, emergency jump to hyperspace," Kethvar ordered. But another tungsten rod slammed into his flagship's engine section, sending the massive vessel tumbling out of control. On Earth, crowds of people emerged from shelters to witness something unprecedented in galactic history. The mighty hegemony fleet, which had terrorized 300 worlds, was burning in Earth's sky like a cascade of falling stars. Humanity's impossible weapons had turned the aliens' moment of triumph into a disaster beyond imagination. Admiral Song Hyejin allowed herself a moment of satisfaction as she watched the tactical display. Where once it had shown hundreds of alien vessels in perfect formation, now she saw scattered debris and fleeing survivors. "Ma'am, we're receiving panicked transmissions from the remaining enemy ships. reported Communications Officer Lim Darsom. They're requesting immediate ceasefire and withdrawal permission. Song Hye-jin's voice was cold as steel. Tell them. They should have thought of that before they demanded we kneel. Continue the bombardment until they're completely out of our solar system. More tungsten rods found their targets as the alien fleet tried to escape. Ships that had taken decades to build were reduced to cosmic dust in seconds. The hegemony's pride was being shattered by humanity's simple but devastating response to their ultimatum. Major Kang Sun-woo smiled grimly as he watched another alien dreadnought disintegrate under the kinetic barrage. They wanted us to kneel, he muttered to his crew. Instead, we set their entire sky on fire. Lieutenant Jang Hae-won gripped the controls of her converted cargo hauler Iron Will as she weaved between the twisted wreckage of alien warships. What had once been a simple freight transport now bristled with improvised weapon systems that her engineering crew had welded to its hull during the past 6 months. Targeting the retreating cruiser on bearing 270, she announced to her gunner, Corporal Yu Tai-min. Fire when ready. The modified railgun mounted on the ship's cargo bay unleashed a stream of guided kinetic projectiles. Each missile was no bigger than a baseball, but they traveled at such incredible speeds that they punched through the alien vessel's shields like they were made of paper. The enemy cruiser shuddered as multiple impacts tore through its engine section, leaving it dead in space with atmosphere venting from dozens of holes. Around her, the most unlikely fleet in human history continued its devastating assault. The mining ship Deep Digger had converted its asteroid processing equipment into a massive magnetic accelerator, hurling chunks of iron ore at relativistic speeds. The research vessel, Discovery, launched swarms of converted exploration probes, each one now packed with explosives and guidance systems. "This is insane," muttered Pilot Officer Kim Sung-ho from the civilian transport Safe Harbor. His ship had been carrying medical supplies to Mars when the war began, but now its cargo bay held racks of kinetic interceptors. 6 months ago, I was delivering antibiotics. Now I'm hunting alien battleships. The most spectacular sight was the cruise liner Ocean Dream, its luxury passenger decks now converted into missile launch platforms. Captain Park In-suk had volunteered her ship after the alien ultimatum, and her crew of former hospitality workers had trained for months to become weapons operators. "Port missile array, fire," Captain Park commanded. "Show these aliens what Earth's cruise industry thinks of their demands for surrender." The surviving hegemony forces were in complete chaos. Admiral Vextar, who had taken command after War Marshal Kethvar's flagship was destroyed, couldn't believe what his sensors were telling him. The humans were attacking with everything that could fly, from military vessels to converted garbage haulers. "Admiral, the human fleet includes civilian transports," his tactical officer reported in disbelief. "They've somehow weaponized commercial shipping vessels." "This is impossible," Admiral Vextar screamed over open communication channels, his voice reaching Earth's command centers. "Your species uses chemical propulsion, Stone Age technology. How are you generating such destructive power?" From deep within the Seoul bunker, General Shin Kyung-min's voice came back cold and steady. "You're absolutely right, Admiral. We do use simple technology. That's exactly why you never saw it coming. While you focused on energy weapons and exotic matter, we perfected the art of throwing rocks really, really fast." The General's words were punctuated by another massive explosion as the asteroid mining facility Ceres Station fired its converted drilling equipment at the alien fleet. The station's massive industrial machinery had been designed to break apart asteroids, but now it launched house-sized chunks of metal and rock at the retreating enemy ships. Captain Lim Bo-ra coordinated the final phase of the assault from the converted space station New Hope. Originally built as a manufacturing platform for Earth's expanding space industry, it had been transformed into a floating weapons factory. "All manufacturing bays begin final production run," she announced. "I want every 3D printer, every assembly line, and every fabrication unit producing kinetic interceptors. Don't stop until we run out of raw materials." The station's industrial robots worked tirelessly, turning sheets of metal and electronic components into guided missiles. What had once produced communication satellites and medical equipment now churned out instruments of war at an incredible pace. Engineer No Hyun-woo managed the station's new weapons systems from what used to be the Quality Control Center. "Captain, we're launching interceptor swarms at a rate of 50 per minute. The alien formations are completely disrupted." 300 kilometers away, the research station Lunar Lab had become an artillery platform. Dr. Bae Chan-ho watched from the observatory as his converted particle accelerators fired streams of charged projectiles at the fleeing alien vessels. "Enemy. Fleet strength down to 20%, he reported to Earth Command. "Most of their capital ships have been destroyed or disabled. The survivors are attempting to reach minimum safe jump distance." But humanity wasn't finished. The orbital factories around Earth had been secretly modified over the past year, their assembly lines retooled to produce weapons instead of consumer goods. Now they unleashed swarms of self-guided projectiles that sought out enemy ships with relentless precision. Lieutenant Jang Hai-won smiled grimly as she watched a pack of converted mining drones pursue an alien frigate. The drones had been designed to collect ore samples, but now they carried shaped charges that could crack open a warship's hull. "This is Cargo Hauler. Iron will to all units," she broadcast. "The enemy destroyer at Grid 7 Alpha is trying. How to escape? All available ships converge and engage." The response was immediate. A dozen converted civilian vessels changed course, their improvised weapon systems swiveling toward the target. The alien destroyer found itself facing everything from a modified food transport to a converted passenger shuttle, all of them bristling with human ingenuity turned toward destruction. The destroyer's commander sent a desperate plea to his remaining fleet. "They've turned their entire civilization into a weapon. Every ship, every station, every piece of machinery is attacking us." And he was right. Humanity had done something unprecedented in galactic warfare. Instead of building a traditional military fleet, they had transformed their entire space infrastructure into instruments of war. Cargo haulers became missile platforms, research stations became artillery batteries, and manufacturing facilities became weapons factories. General Shin Kyung-min watched the tactical display as the last major alien formations broke apart under humanity's relentless assault. "Let this be a lesson to anyone else who thinks Earth will bow down," he announced to his staff. "We don't just defend ourselves, we adapt, we improvise, and we turn whatever we have into whatever we need." The galaxy's most feared armada was being destroyed not by advanced military technology, but by human creativity and determination. Every tool became a weapon, every civilian became a warrior, and every defeat became a lesson in how to fight better. The hegemony had wanted Earth to kneel, but instead they found themselves facing an entire species that refused to give up. No matter the odds. Fleet Admiral Ko Young-sik stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, Terra's Pride, watching the last few hegemony ships limp away from Earth's solar system. Their once mighty hulls were scarred and blackened, atmosphere leaking from dozens of breaches where human kinetic weapons had found their mark. The debris field stretching across Earth's orbital space told the story of humanity's impossible victory. Chunks of alien metal drifted silently between the stars, some pieces as large as city blocks, others reduced to glittering dust that caught the sunlight like scattered diamonds. "Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from the remaining alien vessels," reported Communications Officer Choi Min-jun. "They're asking for safe passage out of the system." Ko nodded grimly. "Granted, but make sure they carry our message with them." He activated the broadband transmitter that would send humanity's words across the galaxy. Every civilization within 1,000 light-years would hear what Earth had to say about the hegemony's demand for surrender. "To all civilizations listening across the stars," Ko began, his voice steady and strong. "This is Fleet Admiral Ko Young-sik of the Terran Defense Forces. Earth has never knelt and never will. Your mighty hegemony sent a fleet of 300 warships to make us surrender. Look upon their burning remains drifting in our orbital space and understand this truth. Humanity doesn't just defend itself. We adapt, we improvise, and we overcome." As his words traveled through space, carried by quantum communicators toward distant worlds, Ko could imagine the reactions. Some civilizations would feel a spark of hope, knowing that the seemingly invincible hegemony could be defeated. Others would feel fear, realizing that a new power had emerged in the galaxy. From the Deep Space Monitoring Station at the edge of the solar system, Engineer Park So-young's voice crackled through the comm system with news that would change everything. "Admiral, long-range sensors are confirming what we hoped for. Our colony ships that launched 3 months ago have reached their destinations in the Proxima, Wolf, and Kepler systems." Ko felt his heart skip a beat. The colony ships had been humanity's insurance policy, launched in secret while the world focused on the hegemony threat. Each vessel carried not just colonists, but complete industrial packages and the blueprints for humanity's kinetic weapons. "What's their status, Engineer Park?" Ko asked. "All 3 colonies are operational, sir. They've established basic manufacturing facilities and are already producing defense satellites." Captain Yoon Dalho reports from Proxima Colony that they've successfully tested their first kinetic bombardment system. The implications were staggering. In just 3 months, humanity had spread across multiple star systems and begun building weapons that could threaten any force in the galaxy. The hegemony had tried to crush Earth while humanity was still contained to one world, but they had acted too late. From the surviving alien ships, desperate transmissions reached their home, worlds across the galaxy. Admiral Vextar, his flagship barely holding together, sent a message that would terrify hegemony leadership. "Command, this is Admiral Vextar. The Earth assault has failed catastrophically. We lost 87% of our fleet to unknown kinetic weapons, but that's not the worst news." He paused, looking at his tactical displays showing the locations where humanity's colony ships had established footholds. "The humans have scattered across the galaxy. Our intelligence was wrong. They launched colony expeditions months before our arrival. They're already building industrial bases on multiple worlds, and they're producing more weapons. Their children carry the fire now." The message sent shockwaves through hegemony space. For 300 years, they had been the galaxy's dominant power, conquering world after world through superior technology and overwhelming force. Now, for the first time, they faced an enemy that had not only defeated them, but had spread beyond their ability to contain. On Earth, celebrations erupted in cities around the globe. In Seoul, millions of people poured into the streets, looking up at the sky where the alien fleet had once blotted out the sun. Now that same sky sparkled with the debris of humanity's victory. Dr. Lee Min-ho, the physicist who had perfected the Thunderbolt weapons, stood in his laboratory surrounded by congratulating colleagues. "We did it," he said quietly. "We actually did it. We took their own arrogance and used it against them." But Ko knew this was just the beginning. From his command station, he could see the tactical displays showing humanity's new positions across the galaxy. Each colony was a seed that would grow into something the galaxy had never seen before. A civilization that turned every challenge into an opportunity, every defeat into a lesson, and every tool into a weapon. "Admiral," called out Captain An Soo-jin from the Strategic Planning Center, "we're receiving reports from our deep space reconnaissance drones. The hegemony is recalling fleets from across the galaxy. They're consolidating their forces." Smiled. The aliens were finally taking humanity seriously, but they still didn't understand what they were facing. This wasn't just about one battle or one world. Humanity had shown the galaxy something new, a species that could adapt faster than anyone could suppress them. Lieutenant Commander Bae Jung-woo approached with a datapad containing intelligence reports. "Sir, our signals intelligence teams have intercepted communications from 17 different alien civilizations. They're all talking about what happened here. Some are expressing interest in joining a potential alliance against the hegemony. The galaxy was changing. For centuries, the hegemony had ruled through fear, convinced that their advanced technology made them invincible. But humanity had proven that sometimes the oldest weapons were the most effective, and that determination could overcome any technological advantage." Engineer Park So-young's voice came through the comm system again. "Admiral, I'm getting long-range confirmation from all 3 colony sites. They're not just building defenses, they're preparing to launch their own colony ships. Humanity's expansion is accelerating beyond our original projections." Ko walked to the large viewport and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Human children were growing up on alien worlds, learning to build weapons from asteroid mining equipment and to turn farming tools into instruments of war. The galaxy would never be the same. The hegemony had come to make Earth kneel, demanding submission from what they saw as a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened something they couldn't comprehend, a civilization that refused to accept defeat, that turned every obstacle into an opportunity, and that this spread across the stars like wildfire. As the last alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, Ko activated the comm system one final time. His message would travel to every human colony, every listening post and every hidden outpost that humanity had established in the darkness between stars. This is Admiral Ko to all human settlements. The galaxy has seen what we can do when we're pushed too far, but remember, we're not conquerors, we're builders, explorers, and defenders. We'll make the stars safe for anyone who chooses freedom over submission. He looked out at the debris field one last time. The hegemony had learned a painful lesson, but Ko suspected it wouldn't be their last encounter with humanity. The galaxy was vast, but it wasn't big enough for both the hegemony's tyranny and humanity's freedom to coexist. The war had just begun, but Earth had already won the most important battle, the one that showed the galaxy that some species would never kneel, no matter what the cost, the end.